Welcome to another podcast of The Cult Movie Show with myself, Warren, and joining me in the virtual studio, as always, is Velvet Rose. How are you, Velvet?
I'm doing quite amazing and looking forward to doing the show. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Disclaimer. I'm a little bit I'm on over-the-counter medication today, guys, because of allergies, so I might be a little loopy tonight. But no, I was going to say, this is actually our Eric Roberts special. So it's super exciting. We're reviewing 3 films tonight, and Eric Roberts has a starring role in each one of them. And the second film we're going to be reviewing tonight is the inspiration for this special, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that. But yes, as Velvet said, it is the Eric Roberts special or tribute special to one of our favourite actors, which you probably would have gathered, you know, considering we rate all our movies in Eric Roberts points. It's going to be great fun. So, but before we get started, because we've got, 3 films, Eric Roberts films we're going to talk about, but I really just want to give a shout out to a movie that we haven't chosen to do, but is still one of my favourite Eric Roberts. And that's because I was chatting to some people online during the week about Doctor Who. And we often forget, for all the Whovians out there, for all the Doctor Who fans, that of course Eric Roberts played the Master in the Doctor Who movie. So, that's one that we, even though we're not going to be talking about, we want to give a special shout out to, because Eric Roberts and Doctor Who in the one movie. How cool is that? So
totally. and he's the only American actor to actually play the Master, right?
Absolutely. All the rest have been British. Well, of course, most of the actors obviously in Doctor Who have been British, but it's, of course, the Doctor Who movie was set in San Francisco, I think, from memory.
Right.
So it does actually have an American cast, but it's a great movie. It's an absolute great movie, and it was also vital because the TV show, when it ended, needed an end. It never actually had an ending. So the movie sort of filled in for that, which was very good, until, of course, the TV show came back that we all love and adore these days. But enough about Doctor Who. We should be talking. Eric Roberts. And so the first film that we thought we'd talk about was one that really wasn't too serious. One that was just really sit back, pour a drink, and forget about life for an hour and a half. And that is DOA-Dead or Alive, because this movie is just so much fun that we thought, if Eric Roberts stars in it, we have to talk about it. What are your thoughts on DOA, Velvet?
I love video games, and I usually don't like video game movies. And for some reason, DOA is that one video game franchise I'm not too familiar with. I know a little bit about it here and there. And that actually was probably a good thing, because when you know a lot about the video game, anytime they make the movie, you're just like, oh, they didn't put this character, and they made that character a woman, and all that. That's not how that happens. And since I didn't have the whole lore down for this movie, I was able to just sit back and totally enjoy it. It's got over-the-top visuals, a very simple plot, lots of comedy, lots of action. I really, 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 really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching this. And it's probably now one of my favorite video game movies. My first and foremost favorite video game movie is still Mortal Kombat. Back from I was going to say 1960s. Damn, I wasn't even alive. It wasn't even invented. From the 1990s. There we go. 1990s is what I'm trying to say. From the 1990s.
I was about to say
it's going to be a long show.
It would have been a long show. It would have been a hell of a computer that you would have been playing Mortal Kombat on in 1960.
It would have been the size of a house. That's how
So if anyone has a photograph out there of Velvet playing Mortal Kombat on IBM's Deep Blue from the 1960s, I mean, I think Deep Blue did more than just play chess. Obviously, now we know it played Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, like I was saying, all joking aside, my all-time favorite video game movie adaptation is still Mortal Kombat, but this one I could consider my second now is DOA, because from what I've heard, it's a pretty close adaptation of the actual game. And that's pretty rare in most video game movies, where they tend to combine characters, leave characters out, totally change them, underutilize them. And in this one, they went full out. They even made a lot of the actual characters in the movie look like a lot of the video game characters, which is why some of these people look goofy as hell in the movie.
Yes, yes, because they do. Some of them, they definitely do. But we should, I suppose, give people just who haven't seen it or don't know the video game should just give a quick, very brief rundown on what the film's about. Now, it's from 2006, and it's basically the story of our main star, if you like. Was it Kasumi? Kasumi, I think that's how the name's pronounced. Her brother has gone off to play this game, this combat game, on a special island called Dead or Alive. And he disappears. And so she wants to try to find out what happened. So she runs away from her sort of mythical Asian, land, and gets an invite to go and fight in DOA. And of course, then we have a whole heap of other fighters from around the world who also get invited to the island to play DOA, to fight it out, to find out who is the best fighter in the world. And while she's there, with the help of her, assistant bodyguard from the land she comes from, they try to find out what happened to her brother. And then, of course, many of the other characters will then also join in and try to help them as they realise that the man who runs DOA, who, of course, is our man, Eric Roberts, is pure evil and is trying to create some super fighting weapon that he can basically sell to evil people online. So it's it's great fun. It really is great fun, and the fight scenes in this are really cool, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, they're totally over the top, totally unbelievable. It's like I watched one review where they called it wire foo.
Yes.
So there's a lot of wire foo in this, as they called it, but I love it because it's based on a video game, and if you play any video games, there's always crazy moves. People are throwing, fireballs out of their hands. They're doing, bicycle kicks in the air, flying across the screen, kicking somebody. All kinds of great stuff. And they imitated a lot of the actual game moves. And I like that they had a lot of elements from the actual video game, like the announcer announcing the opponents was taken straight from the video game, the actual sound effect, the actual voice, all that. I thought that was really cool. But I really was impressed with how they made some of the characters look like the characters in the game, because a lot of times that they just get kind of lazy on that in movies, or it just doesn't translate well. It ends up looking stupid in person. But since the Dead or Alive franchise, the people look like people for the most part. They were able to carry it over. What I was surprised about was that although all the women in this movie are beautiful, they were decently proportioned. They didn't go for like the giant silicone busts, because in the actual game franchise, it's known for being a T&A, a tits and ass video game, where there's constantly you see crotch shots, which they did have in this movie, a lot of crotch shots if you really look for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's one scene where that camera practically goes up one girl's ass. I'm like, how is this a PG-13 movie? Like, literally, the camera angle, it's like walking past her, but the camera literally went in between her legs, underneath her butt, the little thigh gap, and past that. And I'm like, wow, that was like right up her crack. And they also, in the video game, you can also, now a new feature is you can actually customize how much you want their boobs to jiggle when you're playing the game. And I'm not joking.
Seriously?
Yeah, this is a real thing. You can actually make it like super jiggle or subtle jiggle. And I'm like, they use different terminology, but it's I don't remember the exact terminology, but it is in the game as a setting that you can adjust how much their boobs bounce when you play a game. They even parodied one of their spin spin-offs, which is DOA volleyball. Because they know what they are. They know they're not only a fighting game. They know that a lot of people are buying this game to see these animatronic, or not animatronic, but computer generated women with big boobs bouncing and nice tight round asses everywhere and crotch shots everywhere. So they even made a volleyball game just so the girls have to jump to hit the ball and you can watch the boobs bounce.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I'm serious. And so I was like, oh wow, they even parodied the volleyball game. But all the women in this movie are they're proportionately endowed. So they're not like giant boobs bouncing around everywhere, giving everybody black eyes. They're just kind of like, B cup, healthy C cup. So it's like, if you love TNA but it's a PG-13, I don't know how this movie got PG-13. I really don't, because I'm like, there is a lot of zooming in on the ass. They're zooming in on the crotches. I mean, they're just any angle they can get to see, like the shape, the outline of the breasts, even though you don't actually see naked breasts. Like, seriously, how did this get a PG?
I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing, Australian versus American. I don't know, but I really didn't. I looked at this and I thought, this is totally quite normal and healthy for teenage kids. I didn't see anything at all. As I said, maybe it's just a cultural thing. I really don't know. But but one thing I have to admit, I mean, the cast. I mean, you're talking about the female cast. I mean, they are absolutely stunning. I mean, basically, you've got Jamie Priestley, Devon, is it Aoki? Holly Valance, my girl from Australia, woohoo! And Sarah Carter. I mean, the cast is absolutely stunning. And considering they spend much of the movie wearing really just bikinis, don't they?
Or tight-fitting dresses, or short dresses, or short shorts. It's like as little clothing as possible. It's almost clothing optional in this game.
Yes. But we should of course talk because although I actually think all of the fighting cast are fantastic, but of course we must talk about our main man, Eric. Now, what did you think about Eric in this film? Do you think he was evil enough? Was he like the evil master? Did he play it pretty well?
I absolutely loved Eric Roberts in this movie. First off, I loved how he rocked the long hair, like that was his natural hair. Like I thought that looked so good on him. I was just like, it gave him that, like, I don't know, it was kind of like, I almost want to say he was pimping. It's just like, he looks so, he just looks so smooth and in control. But that's also Eric Roberts. In a lot of movies, he has that really sophisticated, smooth style about him. So he had it especially in this movie, and I loved his hair. It was kind of long, longer than you usually see him wearing it. Very stylish, looked natural, and I was just like, oh, I love this. But also, I just liked his style the whole movie. He's always kind of cool, calm, collected, and even when I was kind of like, let's see how he does in this fight scene. And I mean, of course, I'm sure there was a body double and all that fun stuff, but it was believable for the movie. Yes. I thought he was great in this movie. I thought he fit in really well. At first, I thought it was an odd casting choice, but then once I watched the movie, I'm like, no, he fit right in. This was perfect.
Well, the thing about Eric is,
guy who wants money and power.
Yeah. He's such. He just always plays such a good villain. I know he gets typecast into a lot of villainy roles, but
right,
he is just so good at it. I mean, it may be a reason. The Expendables. I remember we spoke about the Expendables with remember Eileen Daly when she was on the show, and
Alana.
I thought. Oh, was it? Oh, my mistake. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she was saying, "Get down."
Oh, she was too.
She goes, "That's all this movie is."
She was too. It was Alana too. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alana. Do forgive me. But remember, the very first baddie in the franchise of the Expendables was, of course, Eric Roberts. So he does play, and so if you think about it, that whole franchise, he was the very first person they chose. So he does play that role. I think extremely well. But one thing that just made me laugh about this movie, I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, is when Kitsumi's sort of boyfriend come bodyguard, protector, or whatever, decides that he's actually going to try to get into the control center and see if he can, gather some information. So in true ninja style, he tries to sneak in. Well, it's the worst sneaking I've ever seen in my life. He must fight and take out, 20 or 30 guys.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I wouldn't exactly call this being ninja sneaky stealthful. I mean, he's making so much noise and killing so many people. He must have alerted the entire island, to what he was doing.
It's like a breadcrumb trail of dead people.
I know, but the other thing too is that one of the scenes I really do think it's at the start, sort of the starting of the film, and then it's played on again towards the end of the movie, and that is Jamie Priestley and her running with the pirates. Now, did you love all of that? Did you think that sort of running joke was kind of cool?
I'm sorry, what was the running joke? Sorry. Technical difficulties.
Just lost you there for a sec. No, that's okay. Yeah. I was just saying that Jamie Priestley's endless running with the pirates, because it happens several times.
I think that was a little bit of fan service too, because actually one of the pirates on the boat is actually Robin Shou. And he was in the original Mortal Kombat movie. Right. And so it's surprising they didn't cast him to be in this movie in some form or other, since, he's a really good martial artist and he has acting skills, and fans of Mortal Kombat would have loved to have seen him in this movie in a more significant role. So I'm guessing maybe part of the whole run-in with the pirates was just so that Robin Shou could get a little more screen time, so that people could be like, oh, there's Mortal Kombat's Liu Kang! It's like...
He
That's
does.
I was like, it's Liu Kang, and then you're like, oh, is that all he's going to do? And then he's back again. Oh, there he is again. So it's like, might have just been a little bit of fan service.
But it was great comic relief, though.
Now, the part that made me laugh was, okay, so we have Tina Armstrong, played by Jamie Priestley, and so she's hating life when she gets into the tournament, because it turns out not only did she get invited to the tournament because she's recently retired from wrestling, the family business, her father has also been invited to the tournament, and so he's still like a current active wrestler in this storyline. But in real life, he was also a wrestler. That was actually Kevin Nash from WWE fame.
Yes, of course.
And it cracked me up to see him there. But what cracked me up is I'm like, okay, he is way too young to be her father. I was like,
I know.
I was like, that really bothered me. I was like, that is so distracting. That's supposed to be her dad. What did he sire her when he was 5 years old? I was like, yeah, there can't be that much of an age difference. So it was just weird. I was just like, how can that be her dad?
But then again, I don't think anything in this movie is seriously meant to be taken, very seriously. I mean...
Okay, Brian White, the guy that played Zach, that's the African-American male.
Yes.
With the green little hair spike, with the green spike on his head. It's supposed to be a little green hair, but it just looks so goofy. It looks cool in the video game, except for there is one, they do all the alternate costumes, alternate skins in video games now. That same character, Zach, in the Dead or Alive franchise, one of his alternate costumes is a Teletubby costume. That's like...
oh, my God.
Yeah, it's like metallic, kind of like mirror metallic. And on top of that, like, how the Teletubbies have that little like antenna or whatever on top of their head?
Yes, yep.
The antenna on top of his head looks kind of like a dildo.
Oh my God.
So this video game's outrageous, and it's hilarious that of all the video game movies I've seen, Street Fighter, Double Dragon, King of Fighters, Mortal Kombat, this one is the truest interpretation of all of them. This one stays the closest to the storyline. Most of the characters look like the characters in the game, except for I'm glad they decided not to do the alternate costume for Zack, so we don't see any Teletubbies with dildos on their heads.
With dildos on their heads, probably just as well. No, probably just as well.
Movie.
But I have to admit, as you said, there's so many movies have been made, especially really in the last 16 years or so, based on video games. But, I mean, one of the ones that, oh my God, I would have to put it up there with one of the worst movies ever made was Street Fighter.
Oh my God. If we ever do that one, we'll have to bring Count Kenny on again, because he loves that movie. And I'm like, that movie is horrible.
It is terrible. Yeah.
I'll tell you part of his argument for Street Fighter is that he says if you look at it as a comedy, it's hilarious. It's great. If you look at it as it's supposed to be an adaptation of that video game, it's awful.
Yes. Well,
so I'm like, okay, I get that.
I think the only way you can look at it is as a comedy. Although I did think the casting was interesting. That the female lead, of course, next to Jean-Claude Van Damme, was Kylie Minogue, and of course, you know, Kylie Minogue's the only woman really in cinema that would make Jean-Claude Van Damme look tall. So that casting was probably worked pretty well. I love you, Kylie. Hey, I'm Australian. You're the, you know, I mean,
so tiny.
But she's about 3'2", you know, I mean, no, look, Kylie's the queen of Australia, as we all know. She's actually our true royalty. So, but yeah, so love you, Kylie. But, you know, but that, of course, when they're talking to each other, it sort of works because he's actually finally taller than the woman he's acting with. You know, because as we all know, normally they've got to put Jean-Claude on a box, you know, just to, you know, or they dig a ditch, you know, for the female star to stand in. A bit like Alan Ladd, you know, I think he had the same. Was it Alan Ladd? No, I'm not too sure. It was a very short actor from the 50s, but, probably,
I think I know who you're talking about. I'm not 100%.
I don't know. I don't think it was Alan Ladd. I think it was someone else. But anyway,
don't rely on me. I'm no use tonight. I'm no good.
A bit before my time, anyway. But going back,
like the casting. I did like the casting of this movie, except for I liked Kevin Nash in the role playing Tina's dad, Bass. But yeah, at the same time, just that age difference was not enough age difference. I'm like, maybe brother and sister. You know,
yeah, like, that would have worked better. I have to admit. But the other thing too is I did love the fact that every time he comes across his daughter, Jamie Priestley, you know, on the island, she's always putting lotion onto another woman's back, or she's been kicked out of her room because a fight's broken out there, so she's sleeping in somebody else's room. And every time he walks in on her, he thinks that she's having a lesbian affair with another woman. But he's like, oh, it's all cool if you're into that. That's all cool. I'm support. What's her name? You know, are you going to invite her to dinner? You know, it's like, just like he's such an accepting, understanding dad. Even
but
though
he is shocked
you know,
the first time.
Yeah,
like,
he is a bit.
He's probably like, okay, this is awkward because for half a second I was turned on, but then I realized, no, that's my daughter. I can't be turned on like, at the thought that she's with another woman, you know. So I think that's the conflict right there. So.
Yes. But I've got to admit, the fight scene between him and Jamie Priestley is very funny, though. You know, it's like because they're on these two sort of bamboo rafts, and it's quite simply the first one to fall in the water loses, and it's done. The other thing, you know, how you were talking about the wire flying and so forth that's sort of used on this. I think one of the reasons too I like a lot of the fight scenes in this is that it did or does actually remind me a lot of Hong Kong cinema. You know, the fight scenes that you get in Hong Kong movies, which are so different to the ones you get, you know, in Western movies. So, you know, where you get people literally able to jump off buildings and leap into the sky and almost hover in the sky and all these different things. And, you know, I loved all that. And all of that is in this movie, which is kind of cool, I thought. You know? I really did think that was kind of cool.
Yeah, what I also liked about the movie is I liked that they did set up the rules of DOA, where basically the way the tournament works is it's, you know, one-on-one, it's no weapons, and the first person to get knocked out is the person who loses. So, you know, you win by knockout. So I did like that they did that in the game. I was surprised how quickly they knocked out some of the characters in this game, because like I said, they really went to lengths to make a lot of the people look like characters from the gang, and you're kind of like, oh wow, look, so and so's there, and then next second they're like KO. I know,
and
they're like, oh, they're already out of the movie. That was it. So whenever you get knocked out and you lose, they, you know, escort you off the island. You're supposed to win $10 million. Whoever wins the tournament. So, but it cracked me up because even though like there's this money on the line for them to win, there's like two scam artists that find out there's like a huge vault of money on the island. So the whole time they're trying to like win the tournament and steal this money from the vault.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
Because how much money do you need? How much money do you need?
Because Holly Valance is meant to be a, I think, what is it, sort of criminal / assassin. I think is meant to be her her character, and her boyfriend is a like a thief as well. So he cons himself into DOA, and of course when they're there, they are sort of working together to see if they can steal all the money, which is hidden on the island. But of course, in the end, you know, obviously what they end up having to fight for is a lot bigger than money, you know.
Totally.
But I think the reason why they get rid of a lot of those other fighters so quickly is they need to break it down to the main cast very quickly.
Right, totally.
You know? Totally. And I think that's the reason why they do it. And I did like the way that Holly Valance kept her Australian accent. She didn't put on an American accent.
No, that was totally cool, yeah.
Yeah, so I liked that.
And for us American listeners, that's a very musical sounding speech. So like it's fun to listen to her talk. Every time she's on the screen, you're like, oh, good. Say something else. Say something else.
Well, I think one of the reasons I like it is that how many, you know, whether it be Australian actors or British actors, New Zealand actors, people like that, when they're working in Hollywood, now, if they're playing a historical character, that's a different matter. But if they're just playing a mythical character, they always put on American accents. You know, they always play Americans. And so it's nice sometimes when you see somebody from another country playing the character of another country. And I think that's kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. And plus that also just added to the whole like cultural mix of this movie. Because I mean, that's what it is. You have all nationalities, all backgrounds, you know, professional and criminal. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. I honestly kind of thought I probably wouldn't like this because I'm like, oh, you know, I do actually want to see this, but it's a video game movie, so it's probably going to suck. No, it is so fun. Obviously, you have to keep in mind it's based off a video game, so yeah, wire fu, lots of, you know, sexy women being super fit. I mean, this will motivate you to stay on your diet and get back into the gym when you see how fit some of these ladies are. You're just like, wow, yeah. Put down the donut, pick up the protein shake, you know? So.
I have to agree. I saw this when it very first came out, and it was, you know, all very cool. And when I watched it again this week, I was sitting there sort of thinking, Warren, I think you can afford to lose a few kilos, you know?
Yeah, it had the same effect on me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I remember looking kind of like this, and I'm like, this is a possibility for me too. I'm just like, but even when they first show Jamie Presley, when they first introduce her character, Tina Armstrong, what is she doing? She's doing sit-ups. But that's how you do that. You work out all the time.
But the other thing too is how fit was she? And I mean,
oh my God.
I'm talking about the real use of the term, not the British use of the term. Like how fit was she? I mean, when you see her doing those, I mean, she's doing, what is it, vertical sit-ups?
Yeah.
You know, where she's hanging from her feet, and it's actually her.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a body double. So that was, and you could just see in this movie, she was just all muscle.
Abs of steel, but still really feminine and really pretty. So I like that in this movie, that all the girls are obviously really ridiculously physically fit, but it doesn't come across as, you know, they're all roided out. You know, they're not, well, maybe they were, but I don't think so. But I mean, they just look like they really lead a healthy lifestyle. And it's really fun to watch a movie where people had like really healthy, fit bodies that didn't look over exaggerated. Because I was honestly expecting, because I didn't look at the cast list or anything before I watched the movie. I'm just going to sit down and watch this. Then I was honestly expecting it to be like a bunch of muscular girls and people that are all roided out. But actually, it was a nice mixture of pretty much just physically fit people for this versus the video game where they have like all the muscles on top of muscles on top of muscles, and the boobs are bouncing everywhere, and it's just like there's crotch shots and asses, and, and they were able to throw all that in here, but in a more fun and in a PG-13 style. That I was like, oh, they pulled it off. You still see TNA, but it's not like playing the video game where it's kind of like wow, what's going to happen next? You know what happens when you get knocked out?
Well,
how are you going to get knocked out?
But the other thing too is, yes. I know. But what I was going to say is that there's also quite a bit of humour throughout this. Like, for instance, when the three girls are trying to climb up the side of the Buddha, up all the scaffolding work up the side of the Buddha, and they have to work with each other to actually, to get up there. And the other thing too, watching this, it just reminded me so much of why Jamie Priestley, because you think about it, she does a lot of comedy. If you look at her body of work, a lot of it is comedy. So I thought, there was a lot of funny stuff, in this. And Eric Roberts, he was cool. He just played it so slick. He was really good. And, his fighting in this too was pretty good, I thought.
Oh, I totally liked it. Yeah, definitely.
So if you were going to rate it on our man himself, on the Eric Roberts scale, out of 5, how many would you give it, Velvet?
Oh, wow. Well, this definitely has a lot of replay value. And if you come at this movie actually from a non-gaming perspective, if you're just going in to watch something fun and see a lot of pretty people and some comedy, I don't want to give it 5 out of 5. That just seems a little too high because we have some other stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Let me give this, I don't know, 4. 4 Erics out of, 4? 4 Erics out of
4
5
Erics?
possible Eric Roberts. Yeah, I'm going to give this 4.
Well, I would sort of say that if you want to watch this purely from the perv factor, then then basically it's worth 10 Erics, all right, because it's perv central, right? But if you want to watch it as a fun sort of martial arts, movie about a video game, then I reckon I'll probably give it 3. 3 Erics, I think, from me.
I had to rate it so high because I'm like, this is actually now my second favorite video game movie of all time, next to Mortal Kombat, and that's a pretty high rating from me. So definitely 4 Erics out of a possible 5. Erics.
Oh, cool. No, well, I still that's a pretty good score. It still passed. It passed the Eric Roberts test, and that's all that's important. So look, we will take a quick break, and we'll be back with our next film.
Okay, here we go. So our mini movie review of the week, we have Play Violet for me. So this is a film noir short, and this was actually put together by a husband and wife indie film team. Their production company is called Sunshine Boy Productions, and you can check out the film noir short Play Violet for me if you go to playvioletmovie.com. There we go. Or excuse me, playvioletforme.com. Oh goodness, sorry. I'll shout that out. I'll shout it out again towards the end. So that
that's all right. Yeah, we'll give
people can actually find the movie.
Yes, we won't just sort of say pinksquid.com or something, or we'll get the address correct. But yes, I'm loving this little segment, the mini movie review. It's really cool. So tell us some more about this movie, Velvet. The general idea and sort of how we came about it.
Okay, so it's a 15-minute short, and, as part of our mini movie review, we do also accept submissions, but every once in a while I'll come across one that grabs my attention, and I'll go ahead and pick it for us. So we follow them on social media. You can follow them on Twitter at PlayVioletMovie, on their Twitter at PlayVioletMovie. And basically, it's an obsessed loner's life unravels after he finds his dream girl dead on her floor. So this little 15-minute short has won quite a few awards. The LA Neo Noir Film Festival 2016, among a host of others. And it's got really high production value. If you're a fan of the Postman Always Rings Twice, if you're a fan of that whole black and white, 40s, 50s style noir, you'll like this. I have to admit, anytime I see modernized noir, I'm always a little bit skeptical when I go in, because there's a certain charisma and charm that films from the actual noir era have that is really hard to translate into modern cinema.
Yeah.
And a lot of times modern noir comes off just goofy as hell. It's unintentionally funny. It just seems silly. So honestly, when I first went into this, I was kind of expecting to get a laugh. I was honestly expecting it to be funny.
You're expecting this to be funny.
I was expecting it to be unintentionally funny.
Okay.
Because I had a feeling, I was like, because sometimes people try to, like, although it's in a modernized setting, but it's supposed to have that whole noir aspect to it. A lot of times they try to do the style of the vintage films, and they'll try to be like, yeah, you see, this is a film noir, you see, and it just ends up being fucking goofy. And this one, they actually, for half a second, they almost lost me, because there's actually use of, this is predominantly shot in black and white, and for half a moment they almost lost me in the short because they started using color, and I was like, it took me out of the story for a moment, and I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, why are they using color in a film noir? And I'm like, now I'm being a film purist.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know about this. But then you see that actually the use of color in the film is essential to telling the story, to help you keep track of what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. And let me just, a very slight spoiler. I'm not going to do a major spoiler, but I'm going to give you a very slight spoiler. So our main character in this short is Violet, like the color or the flower. But at one time you do also hear someone say Lila. Yes, you did hear Lila, not Violet. So keep your ears open for that. You're going to need that when you're watching this short. Yeah. So it's in the short 15 minutes that they have, they managed to pull off a twist. There's not a lot of character development, but they give you enough to draw you in. I would like to know more about motive. And like I said, I can't reveal too much because it is a short. So I do feel like the motive felt a little short. I kind of have an idea what the motive was, but I'm not sure if that was a strong enough motive for the story that got told. But it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of film noir and you like short films and you like independent films. Then you definitely want to check out Play Violet for me. What did you think, Warren?
Yeah, look, I really liked it. It's like we always say with, short films, you never really quite know what to expect going in. And I suppose the one huge benefit is that if it is horrible, it's over very quickly. The pain is very short. But in this case, no, that wasn't the case. This was actually quite enjoyable. I enjoyed the story. It did keep me watching. I wanted to try to work out exactly what was going on. And I think the movie does answer all the questions that you have at the end. So you're not left at the end thinking, what the fuck just happened? You do actually understand it. But the one thing I do really strongly agree with you, Velvet, is that there is no indication of what the motive is. And you sort of wonder why, like we've just watched, this, 13 minutes. We know what happened. We understand the twist, but we don't really know why it happened. And that is a little bit confusing, I suppose. That was about my only thought. But then, again, maybe that's done intentionally. Maybe it's not necessary. Is the motive really necessary? I don't know. I suppose that's very much for the individual, to decide, I suppose. But I loved it.
Like I said, yeah, no, I agree. I think there was a very slight motive, but like I said, I'm not sure if that was motive enough for the story that we got. But at the same time, maybe you're right. Maybe that lack of very extreme, clear, strong motive is what helps to keep you drawn into the story. Because even after you watch the movie, you are thinking about it. Because you're kind of like, okay, did I keep track of this? And was that? And okay, is this what happened? But I do agree. It does actually, for the most part, answer most of your questions, because you do, for a moment, go into a whole tailspin of, wait, what? And then you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It gets you caught up. It gets you caught up with your questions.
And there's only so much story you can tell in 13 minutes.
Right.
You know, so, no, look, I really liked it. The cinematography is excellent. You know, it's really well shot. The actors, you know, deliver a performance that I think is perfect for the style of movie that it is. The script, I think, is very good. I liked, you know, I mean, it's a classic tale, you know, that we have seen so many times, and it was very, very well done. You know, that sort of plot of, I'm not too sure, you know, sort of revenge and, should I use the word murder, or, well, I just haven't
well,
I?
They'll have to watch the short to find out.
But yes, but I don't want to say too much, but it's really enjoyable. And I really highly suggest, you know, get onto Twitter, you know, follow these guys, and then, you know, follow all the links so you can actually check out this movie, because it's worth it. You will not have wasted your 13 minutes. I think you really will have enjoyed it.
Right, totally.
Most definitely.
So you can follow them on their social media at Play Violet Movie on Twitter, and you can also actually watch this short on their website, playvioletforme.com. And and if you do that, go ahead and shout us out on social media. Tell them at Cult Movie Show sent you.
Oh, most definitely. So, definitely check that one out. And so, look, that was the mini movie review. And so we will just take a quick pause, and we'll be right back with our second cult film. And this is one that I have really been looking forward to talking about. So, oh yeah.
Totally.
So we'll be right back. Well, we're back, and our second movie of the podcast, and this is a cool one. Oh yes, I've been looking forward to this, and it is Eyes of the Roshi, and this is a great little movie from the United States from 2016, and of course, once again, because it is of course Eric Roberts Day here at the Cult Movie Show, it does of course star Eric Roberts, but it does, of course, star a number of other pretty cool people as well. And this is a really, really nice little film. What did you think, Velvet? And then I'll give everyone just a bit of a rough sort of rundown of what the movie's about.
Okay, I got to say that this film has, and I mean this in the most endearing way possible, this film has the heart and soul of an independent film. Is it a masterpiece? No. Is it a piece of original filmmaking that you should definitely check out? Yes. So I'm going to definitely say that. So I will have quite a few criticisms about this movie throughout, but overall, I just wanted to give a spoiler on my review. I'm just going to say this is definitely something worth checking out, because it's really an unusual style of independent filmmaking in that it was unafraid to go against the norms of typical cinema storytelling in today's independent film circuit. So, but we'll get into that, and I'll let you give the rundown on what this story is.
It's our movie starts in Vietnam many, many years ago, and we get to see a young boy and a young girl growing up together, and then a murder happens, and this young girl, who is now a woman, is murdered, and then of course one of the stars of our movie will then Adam. That's exactly right. Adam will take revenge on the person responsible, and basically shoot him. I don't think this is all in the first couple of minutes, so I don't think it matters if I give this away.
Yeah, I think it's okay. This is like literally the first 2 minutes of the movie.
Now, our movie then comes into then modern times, and Adam moves to the United States, and we then find that the person who was shot by Adam has decided that he wants revenge, and he goes to a Vietnamese prison where he finds a an American assassin come, I don't know, bounty hunter sort of thing, gets him released and hires him to track Adam down all the way in the United States. And that's really what our movie is about. But we then have a whole heap of other characters who will come into this movie. Adam is sort of taken in by a very close-knit sort of run farm in the United States, where he gets a job and becomes more than just a worker on the farm. He almost really becomes a member of the family. We then have a love interest for Adam as well, who he'll meet on the farm. And then we also have Eric Roberts, who is sort of the offsider of our assassin, who is there supposedly meant to give him assistance while he's in the United States, but he actually really tries to take over the job himself. And so we've got all these multiple different stories all running simultaneously in this movie, and there's actually quite a lot to take in. So, look, I loved it. I really did think this was good, Velvet.
This movie really caught me off guard. Most of the movies, especially if it's a movie I haven't seen, I really try to go in doing almost no homework. That way I just have a clean slate. I don't have any outside influence. I don't already assume that I know what's happening in the story without watching it. So I didn't watch any kind of teaser trailers, anything like that. So, I did like it, but I have to admit, when this movie first ended, I think I literally sat for like 15 minutes and I just had to process it because I was just kind of like, there's a lot of really quirky things about this that make it an independent film. And at first I was kind of like, so when it very first ended, like I said, I literally sat for 15 minutes pondering, just kind of, putting all my facts together, replaying stuff in my head, just kind of taking it in. And there's a lot of unorthodox things about this movie that if this had been a mainstream Hollywood movie, it would not be accepted. That's why it has to be an independent film. So first off, and I think you already know I'm going to bring this up, is first off, let's talk about Adam Ewan, who is in real life, he's a grand master of Zen Buddhism and Karate Do, and he actually teaches yoga. And it turns out that he actually escaped from Vietnam back in the day. So back in 1967, before the fall of Saigon. So I did my homework after the movie, just to give you a heads up. Okay. So after the movie, I did my homework. So he actually lives in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and he teaches yoga at Waring's Gym, and he's been doing this for like 20 years. So first off, obviously he did all of his own stunts in this movie, which is phenomenal. I mean, that alone elevates the status of this movie because it is a treat to watch Adam, who in real life is a Grand Master of Zen Buddhism. So we're going to call him Grandmaster Adam. And don't laugh, Grandmaster Adam Ewan. And
no, it's a real title. It's like Doctor or General. Yeah. It's a real title. So absolutely.
Grandmaster. So Grandmaster Adam, you see, I mean, I literally at one point was watching this movie and I was just like, wow, he is a flexible dude. Then later in the movie, I'm like, he is a fit guy. So he's doing, totally studied out in karate, does the ridiculously flexible splits, and just watching him work out in the movie, because you see him doing like martial arts routines. You see him actually fighting some bad guys in the movie, or actually fights a lot of bad guys.
Oh, a lot of them, yeah.
Which I loved. But also just watching him like do splits and be really fit, and I was just like, wow. So him doing his own stunts, that's not against the Hollywood norm. That's actually pretty cool. In fact, Hollywood would love that. It would save them money. They don't have to hire a stunt double. But his use of the English language. Obviously, English is not his first language. So I thought it was an interesting choice in this movie that they decided to have him speak all his own lines. They didn't choose to dub it or, otherwise fix it in post or anything like that. So he speaks with a very broken English, very heavily accented Vietnamese accent, but it makes him more endearing. And at times he's kind of narrating the story. So if your ear's a little lazy, if you're really big on American accented English and you're listening to him speak, you're going to have to listen a little closer, because sometimes it is a little difficult to understand what he is saying, but at the same time, it made him more endearing, because you see that it hit home that this is a foreigner in a foreign land, essentially, that he's left his home in effort to protect the people in his country, because people are after him, and where he goes, trouble kind of follows. So he ends up in Nowhere Town, USA, in like a small farming area. And I was just like, wow. Just wow. No, please go on. Sorry. Oh, I'll let you get a word in edgewise.
I was just going to talk about Adam Newen's accent. I actually like it, because the thing is that it reminds me of those early Jackie Chan movies, when he started making movies in America, Holland, South Africa, and Australia, where they were actually shot in English, so Jackie was actually using his real voice, and I like it, because that's who he is, and that's, in this way, Grandmaster Adam Newen, that's the way he sounds, and so I think it's good. It's like when we spoke before about DOA, how I said it was really nice that Holly Valance didn't try to subdue her Australian accent, and I like it. I really like that idea. He's meant to be, born and raised in Vietnam. So he's not going to arrive in the United States and have an American accent, So, so I actually thought that was kind of cool. I actually liked the way that, they didn't try to overdub him or anything, because I think it would have spoilt it if they had tried that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, it made his character more endearing. And also what I noticed about him is, I checked his acting credits, and he has one other acting credit, and it's in a documentary. So in other words, he was just being himself. So, This is not what we would consider a professional actor. And although he plays a main character in this movie, and he has a lot of screen presence, he has a lot of charisma somehow. And maybe that's because he is a grandmaster of Zen Buddhism, because he has this contagious smile, and whenever he talks, you want to hear what he's saying. You want to lean in. You're not like, oh God, is he talking again? Because he's a man of few words, and they're usually either funny words, or they're insightful words, or they're words of warning. Like he tells people, I'm going to kick your ass, but he says it in a nice way.
Yes, it's hard not to love his character, and I think that's why that sort of relationship, starts to develop with, is it Blanche? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's because she is a person who has been, let's face it, she's been treated pretty badly by men throughout her life. She goes to one man who treats her badly, so then she'll run to another who treats her equally as badly, so then she'll run back to the first one who has been treating her badly again. So she's had it pretty rough. And then suddenly Adam comes along, and here's this man talking spirituality. He's talking, the essence of trying to find your inner soul. What is he talks about running away from, the sea of troubles and coming to the land of, sort of spirituality and peace. So, so I can see how that develops and why he is so, apart from the fact that he's, fit as all fuck, but I can understand why she would be drawn to him, because, he is exactly what she needs in her life. She needs this sort of refreshment.
Well, he's offering friendship. Yeah, he's offering friendship. He's not saying, "Oh, I'll be your friend if you have sex with me." He's offering legitimate platonic friendship.
That's very true.
I think it's something she really needed. Yeah. And because there were not a lot of women in this movie, there's one woman other than Blanche, and it's a strip club with one stripper, because it's in the middle of nowhere. And I was just like, okay, I just had to throw that out there. I thought it was funny. So there's a lot of what I call soft humor in this movie. So, but then also towards the end, then the humor got more blatantly obvious. And I noticed what they would seem to do a lot of times is after any type of violence in the movie, it was always followed with either some soft humor and towards the end, just some outright trying to be funny humor. Like, okay, now we're obviously trying to be funny. Like there's a second in the movie where I thought they were going to bust into a song and dance number. And I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening?
Well, is this, are we talking about when a certain member of the law is murdered?
Yes.
I actually thought that was hilarious. I thought the way that was done, they could have done that so, sort of like, Hollywood sort of, like, Mel Gibson style, and all this sort of stuff, right? But they didn't. They took something that was so horrific and they made it so funny.
They did.
Which
caught me off
was
guard.
great.
I honestly sat there like with just a look on my face, like, "Are you serious? Is this really happening?" But then, like, it doesn't happen. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, they were joking. Okay, I get it."
Yeah, it was a joke. It was very good. But that also brings up the another one of our major characters before we get onto the man himself, and that is, of course, Ethan Martin. And did you, who plays the hitman who is hired in Vietnam to come to the United States to try to take out Adam? Now, I have to admit here, I thought he was fantastic.
You took the words right out of my mouth. He was fucking fantastic. He blew my mind.
Yeah.
I did not. At first, I thought it was just going to be some kind of off-the-wall goofball character. Because at first, he kind of presents himself that way. He's a man of very, 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 very few words. But then, towards the end of the movie, any scene he's in, he's really stealing the scene. And also, the unpredictability of his character started making me really nervous while I was watching the movie. Because I'm just like, okay, anybody who's in the room with this guy, there's a 50% chance they're not going to survive being in the room with this guy. So I'm just like, Ethan Martin as the hitman totally stole the show, totally blew my mind. This movie, and this is another criticism I'm going to throw out there, but I mean this as endearingly as possible. It is an independent film. This movie is rife with bad acting. I'm sorry, to me, there's so many people in this. I just don't believe them. I just don't think they sound good. I just don't think I just think they sound fake as hell. And I'm just like, and even though I can tell that they've learned their lines and they're really trying, they just don't have that je ne sais quoi. They just don't have that thing that actors have, that no matter what they say, they could be reading a grocery list and it sounds like dramatic and it sounds like they're telling a story and it fits in. A lot of people, to me, just sound like this. Oh man, oh no, he broke my hand, you motherfucker, he picked up that trash. And it sounded fake as fuck to me. But there were 3 actors in this movie that, if it weren't for these 3 actors and how strong their performances were, this movie, I think, would have been a mess. And there's 3 characters, because of the actors that played them, that held this entire movie together and just made it cohesive. So the first one, surprisingly, is Adam Ewan. That's our Grandmaster. That's our, Karate Do Grandmaster. Just because his character was so authentic and likable, and you cared about him, and he just that charisma. The next is Ethan Martin, because his performance was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. I
could not believe how good he was. Like, I'm not saying this is the same, but he reminded me a lot of Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. So if you love his madman performance in that movie, you're going to absolutely be obsessed with Ethan Martin's performance in this, because his is a million times better than Javier Bardem's. And then the third person, you already know, it's going to be Eric Roberts.
Of course.
Eric Roberts he's a straight up professional fucking actor. He's been doing this for so long. You can put him in any movie, any scene, and he just falls right into place, smooth as butter, just has that on-screen charisma that a lot of actors don't have. He has it naturally. And I think just adding him to the film also not only added legitimacy, but again, it helped to carry the film, even though, spoiler alert, let's just say he's not in the entire movie.
No, he's not. That is very fair to say. But see, I would actually disagree a little bit.
Okay.
And that is that, although yes, I do agree with obviously the three people you've just mentioned, how good they were. But I don't think. I wouldn't be quite so critical myself, but this is just a personal thing, okay? But because if you look at a lot of the other actors, especially like, for instance, all the rednecks who live in the town, who were sort of run by the father of their of the leader of the rednecks, and I mean, yes, you could maybe sort of say their acting was a little bit down, but then again, go and watch your average American sitcom, and I think if you're going to sort of like sort of say, oh, their acting maybe wasn't too good, well, then you want to not watch half the stuff that's,
And I don't.
Sitcoms,
you know what? I don't, and I don't watch any of that stuff.
but if you sort of get what I mean, I don't think it was.
I totally do.
Yeah.
So I want to reiterate, when I have said that this movie's rife with bad acting, I do mean that in the most endearing way possible. It's not so bad that it ruins the movie at all. Not at all. It's just, but me as somebody, I personally have no acting talent. I cannot act whatsoever. I can memorize dialogue, but I cannot act. So whenever I see someone else who cannot act, I'm like, I feel your pain. I know exactly what you're going through. You can memorize your dialogue, but you just can't make it sound good. And that's how, for me, a lot of the people in this movie sound, but it's not to the point where it ruins the movie, because they're usually paired up with people who have comparably better acting skills, or they're with one of the three masters of this movie who just, if you're in the scene with that guy in the movie, you're going to be okay, because even if you suck, that person's so wonderful that it balances out.
well, I was actually going to say that I could sum up the movie with a line from the movie. This is a good one, I can tell.
You stole my line.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, actually, we stole Adam's line.
Yes.
He says it a lot in this movie, but it's so good. Because,
it's a running gag, isn't it? All the way through,
gag.
Yeah.
It's a running gag for him. It's really cute. It just endears you more to him. What was I going to say? Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to, go back to a lot of the comedy, which is in this. I mean, for instance, there is this scene where Eric Roberts, who of course plays the character of Booker, is off with I think it's Itchy, isn't it? Itchy is meant to be one of his sidekicks, who's sort of like a drug addict and so forth, and they go to raid Adam's house, and there's this big argument they have in the car about will they wear masks or won't they wear masks. and then they finally break in and they're actually wearing the masks. And it was almost like watching a scene from Get Smart. You remember the show Get Smart? It was, and I thought it was really well done. I mean, it was like the singing, when the police officer is killed and so forth. There are a lot of really funny bits in this movie.
Yeah. And it's obviously they felt that this movie needed a lot of comic relief, because if they didn't have the comic relief, the entire movie, the entire tone of this movie would be very dark. And so I think that's what, for me, made this movie so quirky, because it's like you get into it and it's really serious and it's really dark, but then they'd have this like really silly comedic scene kind of come almost out of nowhere, and you're kind of feeling, manic depressive, you're kind of feeling bipolar. You're like, I was down, but now I'm up again. I was down, but now I'm up again. It's just because, I was just like, okay, are they afraid they're going to depress us? Are they afraid they're going to make the audience sad? I was like, but I do appreciate the humor. I'm glad they did it, because it makes it all the more enjoyable. Because you have your serious moments, you have your violence moments, you have your fights, and then all of a sudden just these bursts of comedy, and you're just like, a burst of humor after the violence, Yes, but it's almost. But that's the other thing too. I mean, you can have scenes in this movie where someone is just talking, and then suddenly their head just explodes from a gunshot, and it's oh my god, where was that coming from? It's just and I thought that was good. Yeah, I love the way they did gunshots in this movie because for me, maybe it was because I was watching it on my laptop and I had like my laptop on my lap and I had my face in the screen. But pretty much every time somebody got their head blown off, it was a jump scare for me.
Yes.
And I was just like, wow, I love the way they do this. And that's why, like I said, you start getting nervous around the hitman because I'm kind of like, you don't know who's going to get it next. And it's gonna, start anticipating the jumps or the jump scares.
It's no, look, but I have to admit, I really did enjoy this movie, and I really do recommend people to, well, can people actually watch this movie at the moment though, Velvet? That's the question.
There we go. Oh, there you go. So you can follow them on their social media to find out where you're able to watch Eyes of Roshi. So I'm going to say this really quick. I almost forgot to even mention this. This movie was demanded. I mean, not requested. I mean, like it was practically demanded by so many people. So many people tweeted us and DM'd us on Twitter saying, if you review a movie, we want you to review Eyes of the Roshi. And we're just kind of like, okay, the first 2 or 3 times I'm like, okay, I'll definitely put that on the list. But no, I literally received, I think, close to, oh my God, I don't even know now, maybe close to 40 requests from this movie through Twitter and through DMs. Yeah, it was insane. So this movie already has a cult following.
Yes, I know.
And this movie just came out like this year, and that's insane. So they've obviously built up their fan base. So to support the film and to see where you can actually watch it, I highly recommend going to eyesoftheroshi.com. And that's going to give you the most up-to-date info where you're able to see it. Like I said, they were kind of to send us a screener so that we could watch this and review it for you guys and tell you to go watch it. But yeah, this is not currently available in cinemas. So if you want to watch the movie, if you want to watch the movie, you have to support. You have to support independent film to be able to see this movie. So
get out there, get onto their website, get onto their Twitter, and I mean seriously, if you like independent movies, I seriously think you will like this. It's got a good story. It's got some faults, I'll give it that, but it's an independent movie, it's going to have a few faults. It's fun at times. It's dark at other times. It has a story that definitely will carry you through. I mean, I'll be truthful. I never got bored with this movie. Not one single bit. It definitely held me all the way through. I love the ending. I won't obviously say what it is. I don't know if everyone out there is going to love the ending, but personally, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, the ending was one of those where, like I said, I had to take this whole movie. I had to sit there for 15 minutes. And I was like, any movie that elicits a reaction like that, where you have to actually sit and ponder, is obviously worth checking out. Because, so many movies you watch, and right when it says the end, you're like, oh, that's over. Okay, that's done with, and you forget about it. Yeah. And if you actually have a movie that causes you to reflect on it and think about it, obviously that's something you need to watch. Obviously something you need to watch. The ending, I also like the ending. The ending really caught me off guard though, and I think it'll catch a lot of people off guard. And there'll be people that don't like the ending, and there'll be people that find some kind of hidden meaning in the ending. I don't think I found any hidden meaning in the ending, but I was definitely entertained by it because it surprised me. I was like, oh, didn't expect that to happen.
No, I think a lot of people won't be expecting what happens, but I think it actually works really well. But we can't say what it is because it will spoil everything. So we won't go down that path. But it's look, I really did enjoy it. I really did enjoy it. It gets my thumbs up. If we were going to rate, we are going to rate it. So where would you put this on the Eric Roberts scale of 1 to 5?
Okay, I am actually going to put this. I'm going to give this. I'm going to give this a 4.75 Eric's out of 5 Eric's. There we go. I can't give it a perfect score, but I can give it a very high score.
That's pretty cool.
This really goes against the conventions. Yeah, this goes against the conventions of standard cinema, and they weren't afraid to break rules and tell an interesting story and really throw somebody into the mainstream of a movie, or I should say, throw somebody in as a protagonist that normally would not get a major acting role. I like that they took that risk to tell their story, and I think it paid off quite well. So yeah, 4.75 Erics out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, yeah. I am going to be pretty similar, actually. I was just going to say 4.5. I wasn't going to.
I was originally going to say 4.5, but I felt like it had to be a little higher.
But then maybe I'll say 4.5398712 recurring.
Okay.
There you go. How's that? So, no. I really liked it. It's in the, the upper levels. Yes, there are a couple of faults, but it's independent movie making. There's always going to be, a couple of little issues. Overall, I think it's really good. I think anyone who likes indie films is going to love it. It's a great story. I have to admit, at the start, though, it can get a little bit all over the place because we are introduced to so many people.
Right.
And we seem to have these various different stories all running side by side where normally we might have, 2 stories running side by side. We might have the goodie and the baddie and we follow their timelines until they meet. With this one, we've got about 3 or 4 running simultaneously. So, before they actually merge about halfway through the film. So it's, so that is a little bit hard, but it's, I still love it. I really can't fault this, to be honest. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that did catch me off guard that did distract me a little was that, Adam, our Roshi in this movie, he had this tendency to show up where he was needed. It was kind of like, wait, how did you know you had to be there? How did you know that?
Yes, I know.
That was a slight flaw in the storytelling because it would distract me. I'm like, wait, how did he know? Like, how did he know to go there at that time? Like, But other than that, yeah, definitely. Still check this out. Support independent film. Follow them on Twitter at Eyes of the Roshi. Also go to their website. They got eyesoftheroshi.com. They've got an online store, so head over there and purchase some merchandise to help support this independent film. Oh, by the way, the budget of this independent film was just under $500,000. So that's estimated. Yeah, and I believe this was also a Kickstarter project. So this is basically a fan-funded film. So that might be part of the reason it's got such a following already, is that people helped to get this film off the ground, and they're going to see it through to the end. So at Eyes of the Roshi on Twitter and eyesoftheroshi.com to show your support and also find out where you can watch the movie when it's available.
Perfect. I mean, I would just say to everybody, we've talked about a few independent films here. The one, of course, that we tend to always make the most fun of is, of course, our Honour of the Spoons, otherwise known as The Room. But of course, we have told everyone to go and watch The Room because it's so bad that it's good. But this movie, I want you to go and watch it for totally the other reason. Go and watch it because it is actually seriously good. So, most definitely. Most definitely. All right, quick break, and we'll be back with movie number 3.
Right.
Now, movie number 3, and we'll save this one for last, I suppose, because it's probably of all the movies that we've spoken about with Eric Roberts so far, it's actually a supporting role that he's played. But in this movie, he is the lead. So I thought, or we thought, that definitely this should be, where we finish the podcast. And we are talking about a really fun little film. I don't know if fun's the right word, but anyway, from 2015 called Stalked by My Doctor. And this is, I don't know how to describe this. I'll give you a quick rundown and then we'll start sort of dissecting. It's the story of a doctor played by Eric Roberts called Dr. Beck. And a young woman called Sophie. And Sophie is out with her boyfriend, driving in the car when they have a major car accident. And she is critically injured. Is critically? Yeah, critically? I don't know. Anyway. Critically injured. And she's sent into casualty, where our doctor, Dr. Beck, operates on her and she survives. But the thing about Dr. Beck is that he's a very, very interesting character. He desperately wants to be loved. He desperately wants to find companionship, but he's such a, he's so nuts. He's such a psychopath that basically nobody, I think no woman in their right mind would actually want to be with him. Now, he forms I suppose, an infatuation with Sophie, and our movie basically follows his infatuation, his stalking, basically, of her, until it all really starts to get nasty. And but I don't want to tell you much more about what happens, other than really Sophie will be feeling that she will be fighting for her life. What did you think, Velvet?
I absolutely love this movie. Oh, I watched it twice this week. I was like, I really love this. I watched it twice this week, and I watched the sequel. Yes, there is a sequel.
Yes.
And there may possibly be a third one. So,
oh, my God.
Okay, so full disclosure, and you already know this about me, Warren. I told you off air that this is one of my guilty pleasures. I absolutely love the stalker genre. I don't know why. It's always the same fucking story. It's always some psycho is obsessed with a normal person, and they make the normal person's life miserable, and 95% of the time, the normal person ends up killing the stalker. And the other 5% of the time, the stalker doesn't die. Well, this movie has a sequel, so I'll let you work out
which category.
Yeah, I'll let you work out which category this one falls into. But I absolutely love the stalker genre. And whenever I saw that he had recently done a stalker movie, I was like, okay, I have to watch Eric Roberts be a stalker. And he is one of the best stalkers I have ever seen in the stalker genre. And I was like, okay, this is the kind of stalker I want. If I ever get stalked, I want it to be a rich, crazy doctor who wants to whisk me away to a private island, and I don't have to work, and he'll take care of me, and he's going to feed me. And he even at one point talks about, well, he has had a semester of gynecological studies, so he is quite skilled. And I'm just like, yes,
I know. I know. I couldn't believe it.
He's so creepy, but at the same time, Eric Roberts is such a handsome man in this movie. He really does look like a handsome heart surgeon, and he literally holds your heart in his hands. But the irony is he can't find love, and he's just so crazy. So I love when they show him go on the date, and I've looked on social media and stuff, and they're like, people love the scene from the movie when he goes on a blind date. Like, he finds a woman online, they meet up for dinner, and everything's going great. But then he starts going crazy during the date. And people have cut this scene out of the movie and uploaded it to social media so many times because they're like, oh, this scene is the best. And he just flips out, and it's so great. He cries in this movie. He screams. He breaks shit. He commits some really heinous, borderline, murders. He creates some major crimes. This is literally like, this has become my favorite stalker movie of all time. And believe me, I have watched a lot. And this one has gone really straight to the top. This has gone straight to the top because I'm like, this is so good. This isn't just him emailing a nude photo of you to your boss. This isn't just him killing your pet cat. Like, he does some seriously fucked up shit in this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so good. So
I'll put it to you this way. After he forms his infatuation with Sophie, you wouldn't want to be a family member of Sophie because he will come after you. It's a really interesting character the way he plays it, because there are certain scenes in this movie where he, for instance, where he kisses Sophie when she's unconscious.
Oh my God, that's so gross. That's so creepy.
I know, and also where he sneaks into her house and actually climbs into her bed and goes to sleep. And there's the thing about the way that these are done, and maybe it has a lot to do with the actor, the fact that it's Eric Roberts, is that I have found myself in these really conflicted while I was watching it, because on one hand, he's so horrendous, you can't like him. But on the other hand, because of who it is, somehow I almost started to feel sorry for him.
Yes,
and when people, when you know they're like, they come home and he's still in the bedroom and you're almost there, like those old days of, Walt Disney, when you'd watch the movie and the fox would get into the chicken coop and you'd be going, run chickens, run. And it was almost like that. I was there, Eric, get out before they catch you,
Yes. I was doing the same thing. You didn't want him to get caught.
I know.
In some scenes. And I think it is because if you are a fan of Eric Roberts, that you just feel sorry for this guy. It's like, really, ultimately, he just wants somebody to love. But why doesn't he go after somebody who wants him? But then the problem is when he does find somebody who's interested, he, within the first date, he's like, okay, you're going to quit your job. We're moving to Mexico. You're going to have kids. And like, whoa. Like, no. They're like, sorry, this is not happening. But yes, I love that scene when he just flips out at the restaurant. And that's when you finally realize how psycho he is. You're just like, oh, wow, it's that bad. Okay. And I love how every time he faces any kind of rejection, he flips out. Like, oh my God, the scene where he's in the alley and he goes into the trash bin and he rips open a trash bag and he's screaming, I'm a doctor. And then he falls down and he's crying and you're just like, oh my God, this guy's so crazy.
I know. It's, but there was something else in this movie that I thought was so poignant right now. And that is the way the father, reacts when his wife and daughter start to talk about the fact that they're finding this guy really creepy, that he's always there. He's trying to touch her. He's acting inappropriately. And the father basically says, well, guys will be guys. This sort of stuff happens. She just has to get used to it. And I thought that's fascinating, considering this movie is pretty recent. And I think we all remember Pussygate. So I found that really interesting.
I like that they did that in this movie because, obviously for the majority of audience members, we look at that and we're like, what? Are you crazy? What is this guy's problem? That's his daughter. He shouldn't be saying that. But I've seen this happen so many times. I, as a teenager and as an adult, have been on the receiving end of that type of thing where you tell somebody like, hey, this person's saying stuff, or hey, this person's trying to touch me, or hey, this person's being inappropriate. People don't want to deal with it. They oftentimes will be like, well, aren't you sure that I'm sure that person didn't mean it that way, or I'm sure, it's not what you think, or don't you think you're imagining it a little? And there are a lot of people that for some reason, they just can't accept that there are fucking creeps in the world. So in this case, this guy's a heart surgeon. So it's hard to imagine that this guy's a fucking creep. And this father's like, wait, this guy saved my daughter's life. He did heart surgery on her. He's not going to, sexually harass her. Why would he do that?
But he, even though he sort of does agree that maybe he is acting inappropriately, but he excuses it as it's okay because he's a guy.
Yes.
Which I thought was really, really interesting. And that's why I brought up Pussygate, because it's so, obviously this year that concept has really hit mainstream media about the way so many men in society believe that they have a right to be inappropriate to women, and that it's justifiable. It's just guys being guys. So it was very interesting that the father had sort of agreed with that.
Right.
But then again, even the mother says something which I thought was, I suppose, it happens in real life, although I think this comment is very, very inappropriate, where she says to the daughter, next time you go to visit the doctor, don't dress the way you're dressed now.
Yeah, I hated that she said that too, but people do that shit. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience, especially my teenage and 20 years when I wore a lot of sexy dresses. People basically say, well, if anything happens to you, it's because you're wearing a dress.
Yes, it's victim blaming,
like
isn't
people
it?
blame you.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
And we still unfortunately live in a world of victim blaming, where, whether it be inappropriate activity against women, sexual harassment, whether it be, God forbid, we go all the way to sexual assault, there is still this victim blaming mentality that exists in society that maybe the woman was responsible somehow. And no, the woman is never responsible. End of story.
Especially not in this movie.
No. I mean, it's
in this movie. And let's talk about the age difference. Difference. So this movie did a really good job of setting up right from the fucking beginning that our main protagonist, Chloe, is 18 years old. They make it very clear that she's graduating high school and has got accepted into college, which means she's 18 years old. So they really wanted to put that out there in this movie so that, it's still creepy as fuck because at the time that they're making this movie, Eric Roberts is, I believe, about 60. So, that's quite an age difference. That's a hell of an age difference.
And I have to admit, some of the fantasy scenes that he has, where he fantasizes that she's actually in love with him, rather than actually being terrified of him. Although it has to be said, at the start, she's very fond of him because, she believes that he's a great doctor and he's helped her. And it's, obviously then she starts to realize that, no, this guy is actually really creepy and sick. But when he fantasizes about being with her, it gets kind of really quite full on. And it gets very sexual, in one scene.
And it just, I don't know, I find Eric Roberts to be a really attractive man, but, he grossed me out so bad in this movie. He was such a creep in this movie. I was just like, oh, no. Oh, and I don't want to ruin any part of the movie because, and don't watch the trailer for this movie, people. Do not watch the trailer. It shows way too much. It ruins the whole story. I hate that. Don't watch any trailers. If you go watch it, go watch the movie. Don't watch the trailer because it ruins all the surprises, takes all the fun out of it. But I have to say this. Let me just say this. You'll know what I'm talking about, Warren. There is a boxing Helena reference in this movie. I could not believe it. I was like, this is my favorite stalker movie of all time now because they referenced boxing Helena. I was like, yes.
Now, if for anyone who, if you want to go back a couple of episodes or a couple of podcasts ago, we spoke about a movie called Boxing Helena, where it's a stalker, prisoner sort of style movie, and
totally.
We have the situation there where a doctor started to remove limbs off his victim so she couldn't actually run away. And I'm not going to say anything more, but yes, I was when I don't admit I was watching this, Velvet, and the first thing that came to my mind was you, and I was going, "Oh, Velvet's gonna love this. Velvet's gonna love this."
I was just like, "Oh my god, yes!" I was like, "Yeah." Favorite stalker movie of all time now. So if you love all those classics, if you love Single White Female, if you love Play Misty for Me, you need to add this Eric Roberts gem, Stalked by My Doctor, to your playlist. No, but seriously, this one's up there.
It's good.
And I have to throw this out there, for the American audience, for the American listeners, this is actually a Lifetime movie. So a lot of people go, what? Yeah, Lifetime is known as being the woman's channel. This is the channel of movies for women. So a lot of times men shy away from Lifetime movies because a lot of times it's rom-coms or they're kind of girly themed. But this is on Lifetime and it is awesome, whether you're male or female or whatever you identify as. You can check out this movie if you love the stalker genre. You definitely got to see this one. It's
I must admit I really did quite like it. Mind you, I'll watch anything with the great man himself in it, but it's But I have to admit, with a number of these stalker movies, I often start to feel almost embarrassed. I feel a bit sort of, when we first start to discover what the character's really like. Like,
totally.
You know, and in this one, I suppose, it's, as I said before, I started off feeling almost sorry for him, because he had such bad social skills and, you know, and all the rest of it. But then, of course, when we start to find out just how evil he actually is,
yes,
all of that goes out the window and he becomes a true villain, you know, rather than somebody that we can actually sort of feel sorry for. But this is actually very serious, this movie, isn't it? I mean, there's no real funny bits or anything like that.
I laugh when I watch it just because of how outrageous the whole concept is because there are people that are just that fucking out there. They're on their own planet. They don't respond to social cues. If you tell them, you know, they don't understand consensual relations. They don't understand that, you know, it doesn't matter how much you love somebody if they don't love you in the same way. And these stalkers just don't give a fuck. They're just like, I love you. That's end of story. It doesn't matter if you love me or not. And it's just, they just do whatever the fuck they want. They're crazy.
But there are some things about this movie that I have to admit are just so ridiculously out there. I mean, it's like I mean, for instance, the idea that she's been in a car crash and supposedly the story is that what is it? She's broken several ribs. And
one of the ribs is pushing into the left ventricle of her heart.
So she has to have open heart surgery, okay? However, after open heart surgery, she's released from hospital 48 hours later, right? And not only that, we get to see the scar from her open heart surgery.
It's not even an open heart surgery scar.
Well, one, it's on her abdomen, basically. So it's in totally the wrong spot. And it's only, for British and American listeners, it's about 3 inches long.
Exactly.
You know, for the rest of us, well, it's metric. You'll be able to work it out. But it's.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's the new way. Is that how they do heart surgery now? They just make a 3-inch slit and they shove the heart in through the hole, just push it up in there.
Through their abdomen. Well, it's a little bit like, we're going to do brain surgery, so let's make the incision on the person's shoulder.
Yeah, there we go. We'll do it there. We'll do it that way. That way, we don't have to cut open your head. We don't want to, we don't want to give you a Frankenstein's monster scar. So we'll just do it. We'll do it through the shoulder.
But when she meets back with her boyfriend after she's been let out from hospital, and she says, "Oh, you don't love me anymore because I'm so ugly because I'm scarred." She's got a 3-inch scar. I mean, that is it, and it's not on her face. You know, it's on her abdomen. You know, it's like.
Yeah, they could have done a little bit of homework on that movie, I must admit.
Just for listeners, I shall point out, it looks like she's just had her appendix removed. That's what the scar looks like.
Exactly. Except for it's up really high.
It's actually, I keep saying abdomen, it is actually higher. It's sort of
like right under... It's like under her left breast.
Yes, yeah. But
I think it's because it's Lifetime, so they couldn't have her like ripping off her shirt and having like a scarred up chest. So they were just like, "We'll just, people will get it. They'll know what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
they'll understand we're working around the censors." Because there's actually a scene in the movie where you see a text message and it has the word "tit," like slang for breast, tit in the text message, and they actually blur out the word "tit." Because it's on the Lifetime channel.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that. That was
I thought that was really funny. I was like, they can't show that, but it's in the movie, so they had to blur it out to be able to show it on their network, even though the movie was made for their network.
How on earth can the word "tit" be offensive on television? I mean,
that's considered a cuss word over here. You can't say tit on television. Yeah, you can't say tit or tits on television over here.
Goodness gracious! Really?
Yeah. It's really weird because when I was a kid, there was a lot of stuff you couldn't say on television. You couldn't say hell, you couldn't say ass, you couldn't say shit, and now you couldn't say bitch, you couldn't say bastard. Now you can say all those words, but you still cannot say tit. You still can't.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm so used to a television system where pretty much anything goes.
It's just, I was surprised when I finally realized one day. I was like, "Wow, I remember you never heard that stuff on the radio or television. Now it's all over the television, but you still cannot say tits." That's like they can't. women's memories drive people crazy. They just can't handle that word.
It's really funny sometimes. I know that, there'll be a piece of news and let's say they're photographs of, I don't know, maybe a celebrity caught topless or like, what Donald Trump was caught saying with using the P word. And you'll watch it where I live, you'll watch it on American TV and it's all edited or it's blank or it's beat. But then you'll go and watch the Australian news service about the same thing and it's not. And it's
that's funny to me. I can't imagine watching legitimate news and they're saying, and he said, quote, I just grab her by the pussy. Like, I would die. I would just, I was really cultural just because we don't hear that over here. So
I was amazed. I'd watched some CNN, this is going back obviously earlier in the year when that'll happen. And I was watching some CNN coverage of it at the time. And because it's broadcast straight from America, they kept going beep, beep, beep all the time, right? Or the reporters were saying, the P word all the time, right? And then, but then you'd go across to the Australian news at like 7 p.m. prime time, and they're there and they're talking about pussy date, grab her on the pussy. And it absolutely blew. I mean, obviously, here we go. I'm making fun of quite horrific comments that the guy made. But the thing is that, it's just amazing the difference between cultures sometimes, how some things are acceptable and they're not.
What makes me laugh about censorship is you still know what they said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I know.
You still know what they said, but at the same time, it doesn't have the same impact when they censor it. Like, because when you hear somebody say, it, you're like, oh my God. Whereas when you're told, well, they said the P word, you're just like, oh, well, that's not good. But it doesn't impact you the same ways when you actually hear it uncensored. So I don't know. I don't know. Censorship's evolved really strangely in the United States. There's so much stuff you can show in movies and television and say now that you couldn't, 10 or 20 years ago that I've noticed. And I'm like, wow, this stuff's becoming more and more commonplace within our culture, and censorship's getting more loose. But then every once in a while, something will come up and they're just like, well, we can't show that. Well, we have to censor that. And I'm just like, interesting.
Well, I suppose the difference I would have seen is that it took cable television, like HBO in the United States, to then to really actually get freedom, if you like, in expression. Where for a lot of the other English-speaking nations, such as Canada, Australia, Great Britain, and so forth, we all have our our government broadcasting services, which pretty much do anything and have pretty much always done anything. So in a sense that for a lot of us, if we're Canadian or British or Australian, we sort of grew up with that concept that you could pretty much get away with. Well, okay, there were some things that were still taboo, obviously, right? But you could get away with pretty much anything. And so it's really interesting, when I talk to someone like yourself or to other Americans, and you realize that it's only really been a recent phenomena in the United States to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, but one thing I was just going to ask you this question though, is that one thing I hate that they do on so many movies is, especially when they do like erotic love scenes and so forth, is that they conveniently have a drape hanging, or they have a pop
they go under the covers.
Yeah, and all this sort of stuff. And my attitude has always been, don't film it then. If you have to go to that level, don't film it. Just imply it. Don't film it. I don't know. What do you think?
I definitely prefer when they imply it too, as opposed to when they have two people humping under the covers for like 5 minutes. It's like, I don't need to see that. You can imply it instead of me seeing a bunch of bumps under a cover.
I know. Yeah.
But I did like the way they did it in this movie, because it was pretty borderline, as much as they could show on Lifetime without getting fully naked, and it was enough to make you uncomfortable, because you're like, oh, this guy's obviously daydreaming again, and Eric Roberts was so creepy in this, but he was so good, and you felt sorry for him, but then like the more you saw how much of a creep he was, then you're just like, oh no, this poor girl. It's like, oh, I hope she's able to get out of this situation. It just, Oh, and I know we're not talking about the sequel yet, but I gotta say, if you like this one, go ahead and check out the sequel, because it's almost as good as this one. And in the sequel, Eric Roberts, or Dr. Beck, actually breaks the fourth wall and winks at the camera. So he knows.
Oh, really?
He knows that he has a whole legion of stalker genre fans that love him as Dr. Beck.
Because I haven't seen the sequel, and I love this idea that maybe, hopefully, there'll be number 3 and number 4 and number 5.
People love this one. People love the sequel. Like, all over social media, people are like, "I want a part 3." So I hope they do a part 3. I hope they do.
I think that'd be great. We could follow Dr. Beck, and I think it would be absolutely great. But it's interesting, though. One point you raised about the fact that he said he'd studied gynecological.
Yeah, and he had a semester of gynecological studies.
So he's really actually suggesting that he's still a virgin.
Ew.
I mean, if you think about it, that's what he's actually saying.
Huh.
Which is interesting, I thought. Huh. You didn't pick that up, or was that just me?
I never thought of it like that. It could be, because I don't think he keeps any woman with him long enough to be able to have sex. And you might be right. And also, I mean, a lot of times these stalker genre movies, these guys are so fucked up about sex that he might actually be. I mean, wow, that's intense. I didn't actually think about that until now.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Might actually be in this movie.
Yeah. That's what. But I'd love to see him, come back more and more times. I love the way you said that he breaks the fourth wall and winks at the camera.
Yeah.
I would almost like him to actually start to play it. I mean, look, this is just my thoughts, right? I'd like to almost have him play it, House of Cards.
Oh, when he just starts talking to the audience, like, look at this fucking bitch. Look at all this that I do for her, and she's not grateful. I'm a doctor.
Yes, I'd love him. I'd love him to do that, for them to do Dr. Beck, but do it totally breaking the fourth wall like every 5-10 minutes, and he actually would narrate the film to us as if we're following him. As they did in both the British and the American House of Cards, and I reckon that would work so well. I really do.
I like that idea. That would be cool. Yeah, that would, especially because then we would really be seeing things from his perspective. Because this guy really thinks he's a tragic character. That he thinks he's just a victim of unrequited love, and it's just like, no, dude, you're fucking nuts.
Yes. He really is. He really is.
Like whenever his date walks out on him, because he's like, basically saying, okay, we've done the first date thing, so let's get married. Okay, you quit your job. We're moving to Mexico. You're going to have kids, and I know this private school that we can send them to. And she's just like, whoa, okay, I got to go. And he's like, wait, please tell me what I did wrong. So she's telling him, hey, you're coming on way too strong. And he's like, oh, well, thank you for that information with your fat ass. Good luck getting a boyfriend.
That's right. I know. Oh.
And then he goes, I'm unfriending you.
I love that. I'm unfriending you. I thought that was so cool, isn't it?
I died.
I absolutely love that line. That was so cool. But,
I died. It was so funny.
I thought that was so. I'm unfriending you. What I would have loved him to then actually do is to get his phone out and it's almost go, right, blocked.
Do it right then and there.
Yeah. Unfriended. See if they showed off Facebook, unfriended,
he was so good in this. He did a really great job of having a calm demeanor, being the charismatic doctor. You could tell he commanded a lot of respect, and that his coworkers liked him, his patients liked him. But then you would see that dark side of him, the whole obsessive and delusional and just dangerous man. And I love it. He has great range in this movie.
He does. But it's interesting though that when you see him on dating sites and he's, scrolling through the dating sites, but if you notice that no woman he ever looked at is ever over 40. They're always in their 20s or their 30s. I don't know if you noticed that. And then, of course, our victim in this movie is, as you said, meant to be 18. Shall we just say he lights them young?
He likes them young. And
Yeah.
actually in the second movie, there's also a nod to that. Again, I don't want to spoil anything if you want to see the sequel. The sequel is called Stalked by My Doctor, The Return, in case you want to look for it after you watch this one. There's actually a scene where he is reading Lolita.
Oh, really? Oh, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. Oh, that is, see, this is why I think this is, I think there's going to be more than two.
I so hope so.
Yeah.
I so hope so.
If they're running little gags like that throughout the second movie, then I really do think that they're setting this up, hopefully, and I really hope they do, and I hope, you know, they keep making them, and Eric Roberts keeps agreeing to play this character.
Yes,
because it's, well, it really could be a bit like, I mean, what is it? Half the world fell in love with Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I love
so
Dexter.
yeah, so why can't we fall in love with Dr. Beck?
Mm-hmm. And, you know, The Sopranos, same thing. Those were all anti-heroes. They were all murderers, racists, cheating on their wives. They're horrible people.
That's
but
right.
We wanted them to be okay.
Yeah.
We wanted Tony to be all right. We didn't want Tony to get whacked, you know?
Yes, I know. But I think the other thing too about, and I think it has a lot to do with the network where it's from, as you said, is that we don't see that there's no concept in this movie of something like rape, but there is murder, and I think that's it's almost because I think as humans we can actually accept murder more than we can accept rape.
Yes, which is weird. I don't know why that is. No, I totally agree. Like, I'm way more comfortable watching a protagonist get murdered than get raped. Because I guess because they have to live through the trauma, because they don't die, you know, and they have to live through this awful experience. Whereas when they're dead, that sucks, and that's a shame. But at least now it's over. You don't have to live with it.
I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, you know, the very highest, I suppose, crime punishment we have in the Western world is murder. But the crime that we're most horrified by is rape.
And that we've seen how that gets handled at times.
When I say most of us, I will say that the sane, normal people are horrified by it. Yes, there are, unfortunately, a lot of people who are mainly males, I have to say, who, unfortunately are just obviously psychopathic fuckwits, basically, is all I have to say. Yeah,
totally.
But it's look, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to have to watch the sequel now. I think that'll be it, most definitely. I really, really liked it. So, okay, on the Eric Roberts scale, Velvet, where are you going to place this one?
Is there any question? This is 5 Erics.
5 Erics. I knew it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Look, I really liked it, and I think for the style of movie, it works really, really well. It's got Eric in it. You know, there's not much to dislike. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4.5. I won't give it 5. Because there's just a couple of bits in the plot that I thought were a bit ludicrous. So I'm like, I mean, for instance, there is something that happens in the end, which, where he tries to, he commits a crime, and shall we just say, look, I'm not an expert on forensics, but I've watched CSI, okay? And there is no way known in a modern Western country you would get away with that crime.
I don't think so either, but
you know,
for the stalker genre, this movie is 5 out of 5.
Yeah,
I was like, it had like some of the most original, fucked up stalker shit I've ever seen in any stalker genre. I was like I said, he didn't just get you fired from your job. He didn't just, send your friends a nude picture of you in a compromising position. Like, he came up with some seriously fucked up stalker shit. And I'm like, wow, this is so good. Good.
Oh yeah. And it's stuff that I think one of the reasons that makes it work so well is because he's a doctor. And so he's got access to a lot of stuff that your normal stalker wouldn't have access to. So yeah, it's
exactly.
And I think that's what works so very well. Also the fact that doctors, I mean, anyone in the medical profession are people that we have such high levels of trust. That's exactly right for. So So it makes it even spookier if it's somebody who breaches that trust. You know, there are people in society like, you know, doctors, nurses, teachers. These are people who we put so much trust in. And when that trust is breached, it makes it so much more horrific. And I think that's what makes this so much creepier.
Totally. Absolutely. You know? No, I mean, I think that's why I like this so much, because so many of the stalker genre, it's always kind of like, it's just some random, usually it's an office worker.
Yes, I know it is, isn't it?
It's just like an office worker.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a normal Joe Schmo or plain Jane that's just obsessed with somebody, and they're just being vindictive because they can't have this person. Whereas this guy is highly educated, highly charismatic, also good looking, rich, and he has access to medical stuff. Yes.
I mean, look, if you were going to make this movie, let's say, on the big screen, because I actually reckon with a lot more money thrown behind it and maybe some changes to the actors, you could actually sell this whole thing to Hollywood without any problems at all.
Totally. Because every year a stalker movie comes out, and every year, guess what I do? I go to the theater and I watch the stalker movie. And guess what happens every time? There's a stalker chasing there's a stalker chasing a normal person, and they fuck up the normal person's life, and then the normal person kills the stalker 95% of the time. The other 5% of the time, the stalker ends up escaping or going to jail. Yeah. So, but I still go. I don't know why. I love this genre and I love this story, and I always go because I got to see the fucked up things the stalker's going to do. Oh. And this one, one, like, one that came out this year that I saw is called When the Bow Breaks. And this one had a pretty good twist because this time the stalker turned out to be a surrogate. So not only is the stalker stalking this man, but she's also carrying his surrogate child in her, in her womb. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I was like, I got to see that one.
But the thing is, because the stalker in this is Eric Roberts, and because of the character that he plays, if you were going to translate this into Hollywood, you'd have to have like you'd need Brad Pitt to play the part. And I think that's what's really freaky about it, because you have to take a big, or actually, you know who would actually be perfect? George Clooney. Right? Oh yeah. Because you wouldn't expect a George Clooney to be an horrific monster like this, because he's so good looking, he's so well educated, you know, and he would be perfect in that sort of role. Absolutely,
I think he could do it. I think he could do it. Totally.
You know, absolutely.
Totally.
Well, that was fun. I love that film. That was really good. But I think I think we've sort of like come to an end. It's time to wrap it up. And I don't think we even said at the start of the show, but this was, of course, podcast 21. We got so busy talking about Eric Roberts, I think we totally forgot. So thanks everybody for listening to podcast 21, the Eric Roberts special. And I suppose shout outs. Velvet, go for it.
Okay. So you can go ahead and follow us on @CultMovieShow on Twitter, and also @CultMovieShow on Instagram. So for gifs and funny pictures and just all around good shenanigans, movie quotes, and also just to catch up with the other shows that we have done. I always post links so you can check those out and help find your episodes. Shout out to Eric Roberts. We hope to have you on the show someday. Hopefully you'll hear this episode.
Oh, yes. My man, Eric.
Hopefully you'll hear this episode someday and know how much we love you, and we'd love to have you on the show anytime. Open invitation. You can go ahead and follow me on my personal social media at OMG. It's Velvet on Instagram and Twitter, but please be 18 years or older because I do post adult content. You can also follow my host, Warren, here on Twitter at Martini Super Dry. And let's see, what am I forgetting? Check out the films that we talked about today. So thank you once again at Eyes of the Roshi for lending us a screener so we could review your awesome independent film. We look forward to seeing what your next project will be in the future. And also check out playvioletformemovie.com to watch that film noir short. And I will let you take us home, Warren.
Perfect. And I was just going to say, you don't have to be over 18 to follow me on Twitter, because pretty much all I do is post pictures of model trains. Okay, so
we got something for everybody.
So if you've got memories of being a young boy or girl playing with your, model train layout, then you probably like my Twitter. Otherwise, you'd be bored to shit. So,
but do follow us on Cult Movie Show.
Absolutely,
yeah. Everything films.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to next week's show. It's going to be a doozy.
Oh yes, and we've got something special as well. But I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx it. But there was a movie that we spoke about. There's a movie we spoke about, and fingers crossed everything goes right. We're going to have one of the stars of that movie on the show. I'm not going to say anything else because I know what happens. You announce it and you jinx it. So I don't want to.
Right?
I don't want to do that. But it's going to be a good show because what's the other thing we're going to do, Velvet? Isn't it our worst?
Mm-hmm. So before we saw The Room, these movies were what we called the worst movies we had ever seen. So I have my pick already, and Warren has his pick already. We might have an emergency number 3. We'll see about that.
We'll see how it goes. But
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So Warren and Velvet's worst movie of all time. So I think that's going to be lots of fun. So look, that's a wrap. Of course, always please check out OFTU podcast, Only Funny to Us. They help us out. So please check them out. And of course, if you're in Melbourne, Australia, you'll probably only have a couple of hours left. But if you haven't been to Setspo, go and check out, of course, our good friend and supporter of the show, Alana Evans, who, of course, is currently at Setspo Melbourne. If you're listening to this on Monday, it's too late. The show's over. And, of course, we always want to say a big shout-out to Alana Evans, of course, for giving us the music. I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, totally.
So we'll be back next week. Going to be a great show, podcast 22. So until then, bye-bye, Velvet.
Bye-bye. See you guys next time.
And we will leave you, as always, with Alana Evans and Perfect.